Hey there, I'm Jay and welcome to Planet Juice. This is my very first deck tech video, so let's jump right in. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through one of my very own pet decks. I'm going to talk about the commander, the basic strategy, and how we're going to win.
Disclaimer, this deck is by no means the strongest or expensive. It's suboptimal at most. There may be some expensive cards included in the deck that I've acquired through random pulls, trades, or have shot up in price since I bought them. But I'm not made of money.
So let's get stuck in.
Our commander for this deck is Akiri, Fearless Voyager. Previously this deck was SRAM, Senior Edificer, but I wanted more colour, so now we're Boros. She costs 1 red and a white, she's a 3/3, and has got two main themes on her. First of all, she wants you to attack each of our opponents with equipped creatures in order to draw cards, and second of all, she has an activated ability that makes a creature indestructible by removing an equipment from them. The basic game plan for the deck is to throw down low-cost creatures and equip them with low-costing equipment. We're then going to play Akiri, attack our opponents, and draw a bunch of cards, which is then going to let us play more creatures that we've drawn and keep stacking all the new equipment onto them and swing in for the win. Let's talk about some actual cards. First of all, we have the ramp. We can't equip creatures with massive swords without mana. We've got the rocks first of all, Soul Ring, Mind Stone and Worn Power Stone tap for our colourless mana. We then have Boros Signet, Talisman of Conviction, Felwar Stone and Commander Sphere for our colour producing mana rocks. We also have ramp in the form of equipment. We run Explorer Scope. Whenever an equipped creature attacks, we can look at the top card of our library, and if it's a land card, we can put it straight onto the battlefield tapped. It's a perfect early equipment to slam onto our creatures to both ramp us and give us card draw if Akiri is out. Sword of the Animist may be one of the best early equipments in the game for us. It gives the equipped creature +1/+1, and whenever the creature attacks, we can search our library for a basic land card and put it straight onto the battlefield tapped. We get to pump out an extra land every single turn, and card draw if Akiri is out. Dousing Dagger is a pretty fun one. On entry, it gives an opponent 2/0 2 plants with Defender, but we don't care about that. If we deal combat damage to a player, we can transform the dagger into Lost Veil, which is a land that taps for 3 mana of any one colour. We also have mana reducers. Danitha Capuchin Paragon is a badass 2/2 with First Strike, Vigilance and Lifelink. She makes our equipment cost 1 less to cast. She's also a solid target to load up with equipment. Jorya's Familiar is a hoot. An owl who makes historic spells costs 1 less to cast, and Foundry Inspector makes our artifacts cost 1 less to cast. Auriok Steel Shaper makes equipping our creatures cost 1 less and boosts soldiers and knights by +1/+1 if it's equipped. The second category is low-cost creatures for suiting and booting with low-costing equipment so we can start drawing cards and smacking our opponents. For the 1-drops, we have Fervent Champion. It's a 1/1 with First Strike and Haste, and when he attacks, he gets to pump another knight by +1/+0 until end of turn. But the main feature is he makes equipping him cost 3 less, so he's a magnet for most of our equipment. Core Duelist is a 1/1 that has double strike as long as he's equipped, and Goblin Cavalier is a 1/1 with trample that gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to him. You see, this little gobbo can get out of hand real quick, and that keyword trample. Now for the 2-drops, starting with Champion of the Flame, who is Goblin Cavalier's big bro. He gets +2/+2 for each equipment attached to him. Core Blade Master has double strike, and gives equipped warriors we control double strike, and it just so happens that our commander is a warrior. Swift Blade Vindicator is a 1/1 with a bunch of keywords, double strike, vigilance, and trample. She can turn into a massive problem super quick. There are 2 3-drops hungry for equipment in the deck. We have Kazul's Toll Collector, a 3/2 who can be equipped for 0 mana, so we can dump equipment on the table, and he'll just hoover them straight up. And then Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, a 3/2 who makes 3/1 elementals with trample and haste at the beginning of combat on our turn for each equipment that's attached to him. The third category is cheap equipment. So we've got the small creatures out, but they're all empty-handed. First, we're going to give them Shuko, a 1-cost equipment that gives a creature +1/+0 and it equips for 0 mana, so we can move this freely around our creatures to make sure we start drawing cards. Basilisk Collar costs 1 and equips for 2. It gives a creature Death Touch and Lifelink, so it keeps us healthy and scares off pesky blockers. Shadow Spear costs 1 and equips for 2, and it gives a creature +1/+1, trample and lifelink. It also has the added benefit of just paying a single mana to remove hexproof and indestructible from our opponent's permanents. Skull Clamp is, well, it's Skull Clamp. If our creature dies, we draw 2 cards. That's awesome.
Bloodforged Battle Axe costs 1 and equips for 2, and it gives a creature +2/+0. And when this creature deals combat damage to a player, you can make a copy of it. If we put this onto one of our creatures with double strike, we're going to get a lot of axes. Category number 4, card draw. See, if everything goes to pot and Akiri dies, we have a few extra ways of drawing cards. Mask of Memory is an equipment that says when the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, we get to draw 2 and discard a card. SRAM lets us draw a card anytime that we cast an equipment, and Pure Steel Paladin draws us a card whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under our control. But it also has the added benefit of having Metalcraft on it. Equip costs are 0 if we have 3 or more artifacts. And with the amount of equipment and rocks we've got in the deck, this is pretty much always online and will always be equipping for free. And finally, we have Valakut's Awakening. That allows us to bottom deck any number of cards from our hand and then draw that many +1. Oh yeah, and new from the latest set, Wylith's Soul of Steel, fresh from Commander Legends. A 2/2 with trample that says whenever he attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to him. He's a solid beat stick with trample and a value engine all by himself. Category number 5, Stompy Equipment. So we've set up an early value engine and we've got a nice group of cards. So let's put out some heavy hitters. We've got the 3 cheapest swords from the sword cycle. Sword of Body and Mind, Sword of Sinew and Steel, and Sword of War and Peace. Each costs 3 to play and 2 to equip. They give us protection from 2 colors and have an awesome trigger on combat damage, which is double triggers if we give it to a creature with double strike. Body and Mind makes a wolf and builds the defender for 10 cards. Sinew and Steel destroys any planeswalker and any artifact. And War and Peace deals damage to the defender equal to the defender's hand size, and then we gain life equal to our hand size. Sword of Vengeance gives a creature +2/+0 and a bunch of keywords. Blackblade Reforged and Colossus Hammer make our creatures enormous. Argentum Armor makes a creature big and destroys any permanent on attack. It's expensive at 6 mana and 6 to equip, but it's worth it if we can cheat it out somehow. Sunforger makes a creature all jacked up, and we can pay red and white to unequip it and tutor for an instant card that costs 4 or less and cast it for free. Most notable is grabbing protection or removal whenever you need it. Also, if you think all these equipment are pretty good, how about a second one? Masterwork of Ingenuity enters as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield for 1 mana. Helm of the Host can be pretty silly in this deck. At the beginning of combat, it creates a non-legendary copy of the equipped creature. So with Akiri, we get extra card draw, or SRAM, we get extra card draw, or Pure Steel Paladin, extra card draw. I mean, you get the idea. Category number 6 is cheating equipment cost. So as mentioned before, with Metalcraft Online, Pure Steel Paladin allows us to equip for 0 mana. Sigarda's Aid lets us cast equipments at flash speed, and when the equipment enters the battlefield, we can instantly attach it to a creature that we control. Also, it only costs 1 mana. Hammer of Nazan is an equipment that attaches itself to a creature we control when it enters the battlefield, and lets us do the same with every other equipment we play. Oh yeah, it also gives the creature indestructible and +2/+0. Category number 7 is the Tutors. I'm not the biggest fan of tutors, but in a deck like this, we need all the help that we can get. Relic Seeker fits perfectly into this plan. It's a 2-drop creature that has Renown, and when he becomes Renowned, we can tutor up an equipment straight to our hand. Steel Shaper's Gift is a 1-drop that finds an equipment and puts it into our hand. Bish bash bosh, no frills here, does exactly what it says on the tin. Stonehewer Giant is a 4/4 giant with Vigilance that can tap for 1 and a white to tutor up an equipment and put it straight onto the battlefield and attach it straight onto a creature. Finally, we have Godo Bandit Warlord, an absolute unit in this deck. When he enters, we can search for an equipment and put it onto the field. Also, when he attacks for the first time each turn, we can untap him and have another combat phase. So, if we have Helm of the Host and an auto-equipper like Sigarda's Aid on the field, this can get insane. So at the beginning of combat, we make another Godo, which searches for an equipment, which auto-equips because of Sigarda's Aid. And after this combat, we have another combat, which triggers Helm of the Host, and we make another Godo that searches for an equipment it attaches to a creature. We then have another combat phase, which makes another Godo, which brings in an equipment, which auto-attaches with Sigarda's Aid, until all our opponents are dead. Category 8, the Haymakers. First, we have Arden Intrepid Archaeologist, new from Commander Legends. He lets us equip all of our equipment to a single target at the beginning of combat to create a weapon-wielding monster. Heavenly Blademaster has double strike and flying and is a magnet for all equipment and auras when she ETBs. Also, she gets to buff all of our other creatures equal to the amount of stuff that is attached to her. Balan Wandering Knight has first strike, but if she has 2 or more equipment on her, she has double strike. Also, we can pay 1 and a white and attach all equipments to her at instant speed. Category number 9, Survival and Recursion. So to try and stop our stuff from dying, we have Boros Charm. It gives all of our permanents indestructible at instant speed. It can also give a creature double strike if we think we can get the win. We also have Swiftfoot Boots, which are an equipment that give hexproof and haste. If our stuff has been destroyed already, we have some recursion in the deck. Restoration Specialist can be sacrificed for 1 white mana to return an artifact and an enchantment from the yard to our hand. Tashar, Ancestor's Apostle, is a flyer that returns a creature with mana cost 3 or less from the yard to the battlefield whenever we cast a historic spell. So every single equipment we play can return a creature straight to the battlefield. Sun Titan returns any permanent that costs 3 or less from the grave to the battlefield when he enters the battlefield or attacks. And for the final category, we have Removal. For single target, we have Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. They both exile a creature for a single white mana. One gives them a basic, the other gives them life equal to the creature's power. Disenchant destroys an artifact or an enchantment. By Force and Heliod's Intervention destroy X artifacts, and Heliod's also hits enchantments or can gain as life. For board wipes, we're running Divine Reckoning, Single Combat and Blasphemous Act, so we can blow up the board but we can keep one of our souped up creatures. For lands, we're running Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, and Myriad Landscape to find the lands that we need. Windscarred Crag and Command Tower can tap for any of our colours, and Exotic Orchard is basically a Felwar Stone as a land. Next, we have some utility lands. Slayer's Stronghold taps for colourless, and for Boros we can tap it to give a creature +2/+0, Vigilance, and Haste. Needle Spires taps for both red and white, and it can turn a land into a double striker, which is great for closing out games when our creatures have died. Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion, can give a creature double strike at instant speed. Rogue's Passage gives us a way through by giving a creature unblockable. Buried Ruin can get stuff back from the graveyard, and the rest of our lands are basic mountains and plains.
Okay, and that's the deck. It's by no means the strongest, but it can definitely pull its weight at the table with other decks. I strongly advise you to go give Boros equipment a go. I mean, with the support it's had from recent sets, it can really pack a punch. So it'd be really awesome as well to help me if you could do that, and that. This is my first video. I have no idea how this YouTube stuff works. Yeah, most importantly, please don't forget to stay fresh and juicy. Take it easy, y'all.